Alright, so in the previous lesson we finished up drawing our first character. We drew some rough line work, then we refined that line work here. Now he's ready for some color, but instead of doing that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our second shape. Now, let me just go ahead and zoom in on this shape here for you, and let's go ahead and take a look at it. Now, I've got it positioned like this, and this is the way that I'm probably going to draw, but keep in mind that it's always a good idea to, again, rotate this around and look at the shape in a different light. This is going to allow you to see a potentially new character in the exact same shape. And in looking at it like this, the first thing that jumps out to me is sort of this flat edge of this shape up here in the top left portion of it, this flat area right here. I think this looks it looks sort of like a hoodie is what it reminds me of, or maybe a profile of a child wearing a hoodie. So just another idea there. Keep in mind that each shape can yield multiple characters, so I'm going to go ahead and spin that around with that said, and let's go ahead and begin drawing a character. Now, I'm looking here at this shape from this angle, and I'm seeing here sort of a head shape, almost a crescent moon shape. If you look at this right here, you see here we've got a nice round curve here at the top, but we have almost the exact same curve down here at the bottom, but yeah, we've almost got a banana shape or a crescent shape here. We've got some nice smaller curves here that could end up being an ear or a brow or things like that. So let's just go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to my layers panel, make sure I'm on my rough layer, and let's go ahead and grab our pencil brush. And let's go ahead and make that fairly small. I'm going to go ahead and draw with that at about 5 pixels. And the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do here is let's go ahead and split this head in half. So I'm going to come in here and draw in a line that's going to sort of divide this face into 2 halves. Now, I'm doing this a few times here just with the thought process that I want this divided exactly how I'm seeing this character in my mind. So I'm looking here at this left half, and if his face is pointed in this direction, then obviously we're going to see less of this half of his face. So that's why I went ahead and drew that line the way I did, to where we're going to see more of this side. So let's go ahead and again come in here and let's maybe place in a guide for his eyes, maybe a guide for his nose, and maybe a guide down here a little bit lower for his mouth. So looking at this here, I think we've got plenty of information to go ahead and get going with this. So I'm going to start over here on his right side, our left, and let's decide what of these curves is what. I think this first curve right here I want to make into sort of the brow. Maybe he's got his brow that sticks out just a little bit there. And this curve right here, I'm not sure if I want to make that a cheek yet, or if I want to make that into a, say an ear or something like that. So I want to come in here, just sort of flush out the eye area. We're going to draw in this brow here, sort of like that. And let's go ahead and place in an eye. I'm going to go ahead and place an eye. Let's go ahead and put one right about there. I'm just going to draw some ellipses for right now. Maybe we do a little bit more of a whimsical look on his face. Maybe he's got one eye that's significantly larger than the other eye. Maybe he's got a look of surprise or shock on his face. So I'm going to come in and draw another ellipse, sort of like that. And with that done, we can come in here and begin to place in the eyebrows and the area around the nose. So let's go ahead and handle his nose first. Now, we've already placed it in here right down the center with this division. So I'm going to come in and draw that nose in, and I'm going to bring that down off of his eye here. Maybe it comes in sort of like that, and we're going to come up a little bit for the nostril here, and maybe come in and hint at the side of that nostril. Alright, so we've got his nose in position, and really with the shape of his face being almost crescent-like, we're going to get a little bit of a really vertical line right here for the nose, if not curved just slightly. So thinking about that, I'm going to come up and extend that past his eye a little bit, and this brow, we may need to actually pull that up some. So let's go ahead and pull that up, and maybe go ahead and place in an eyebrow here. Maybe we come in and give him some really big bushy eyebrows. Sort of like that. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now we can come over here and do the next eyebrow. Let's come in and start it right about there. And again, give him a really surprised look on his face. We're going to arch those eyebrows quite a bit here. Sort of like that. So now with that done, we can come in here and again begin following the line of his face. Now it's time to make a decision. Do we want that curve right there? Do we want that to be an ear, or do we want that to be a cheekbone? And I'm thinking it might be a little bit far out there to make it into a cheekbone, so I'm going to draw that cheekbone in sort of like that, and then we'll play off that curve to make his ear. So I'm going to come down here, just sort of like that. Now, we've got quite a bit of space down here, so he's either going to have a very large lower half of his face, very long face, or we could add something else to this character. Maybe he's got a beard or something like that. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and maybe give him a little bit of a cockeyed mouth here. Something like that for right now. And we can come in and plan out this beard. Bringing down the line of his face right there, we'll curve that around, and maybe his beard comes up here and ends right under his lower lip. Sort of like that. We need to bring that over just a little bit more. It should really technically probably be on top of this division right there. So one of the rare occasions I'll probably come in and erase, but let's go ahead and do that. Pronouncing this curve more because it's closer to us. And we'll come in and solve this side of his face right here. So again, we've drawn in a cheekbone. We want to make a cheekbone on the other side that's pretty close, if not identical in shape and proportion to that first cheekbone. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm seeing kind of an angle here. I want to try and make sure I don't get that too extreme. Alright, so that's looking pretty good for right now. We'll come up here and shift our attention again to his eyes. Now, I kind of want to create this look that, you know, maybe his eyes are inset, and he's got these deep sockets in his face. So maybe we go ahead and shade this area a little bit, just hint at some shading here with a real light brush stroke. Just kind of creating the look that his eyes are set into eye sockets. This is really not going to translate to the next level as far as refining his line work, but what this is doing is it's letting me really define these forms and figure out how his face is going to do things like catch light and shadow, things like that. When I go and I get to the color phase, so I'm going to come in here and give him, place in the center of his eyes, his pupils and his irises here. We do something kind of like that. And let's come over here on the other side. And notice I'm creating some wrinkles underneath his eyes, some bags, if you will. So I'm creating a little bit of an aged man here. Maybe I would say in his 50s or 60s, if not pushing 70. So I think it's still a little bit early yet to determine what his age is going to be, but it's never too early to start thinking about that kind of thing when you're doing this. So we may come in and clean that eyeball up just a little bit. Want to make sure that he's looking in exactly the same direction with both eyes. That'll work for right now. We can always touch those up here in just a little bit, but let's come in now and start to, again, pull out some of these facial features. Maybe he's got some really strong smile lines here. We hint at that little dimple right there on his upper lip. And let's go ahead and extend his beard down just a little bit further. Maybe it has a little bit of a sharper angle right there. Now we're going to need to come up here and solve this area right here. So I think this curve right here, I want to make into an ear. So, but you know, if he's going to be bald like we have him right now, then that beard is probably going to stop somewhere. So we need to keep that in mind as we're bringing this on and around, that the beard is going to stop at some point. I'm going to go ahead and fill in this line right here. May help to come over here and just reduce the opacity of our shape layer. Just a little bit, not quite that much. There we go. Now we can really see the shape of this guy's head. Make sure we're not leaving out any little pieces that the shape was filling in for us. All right, give him a little bit of an ear there. Not too detailed, but let's go ahead and drop in a neck now. Let's go ahead and put in his neck right about there. Because what I'm seeing here is this line right here. We might be able to use that in the attire he's wearing. Maybe it's part of his shirt. Maybe it's part of his suit, whatever we decide to put him in. So I'm going to come in here and just mess that line on that beard up just a little bit as we kind of curve around his chin. Just like so. And let's go ahead and draw in a line down here where that beard, the lower part of that beard is. Sort of like that. And we'll bring that up here behind his cheekbone. Maybe it stops right about there. Maybe his cheekbone covers most of it. So really that beard almost sits underneath his jawline here, sort of like that. So let's come in here now and kind of work on his attire. I think that maybe this guy should be wearing a suit of some kind. So I'm going to come in here and kind of just begin to draw in the lines of this suit. Using the shape from the lines from the original shape here, I'm going to follow this line down, and maybe this is the inside of his lapel. And it drops right about here. Then we could come in and bring in his collar and then the outside edge of the lapel. Sort of like that. Now, we're zoomed in pretty close here, so we can always come in and clean this up. But I think zooming out is going to help you not to get fixated on little bitty details. So, you know, thinking about this guy, if he's an older gentleman, maybe he's got a little bit of a hunched back. So maybe we come in and kind of shorten that neck down a little bit. Sort of like that. Starting to think about what he's wearing underneath the suit. Maybe he's wearing a shirt and tie. So come in and hint at a collar here. Maybe he's got a tie that comes around. Sort of like that. And maybe we don't see the entire tie because the other side of his jacket's going to come in here sort of like that. And we'll come in and draw in that lapel. And maybe just hint at his other arm. Alright, so this guy's looking pretty good. I think we've fleshed out a character here that is definitely worth refining, and he's got a really interesting expression on his face. I think I may come in between lessons and just kind of clean him up just a little bit to prepare him for the refined line work, sort of like we did with the last guy. But in this lesson, we have done the rough line work for our second character. In the next lesson, we'll pick up and continue with this character.